president of the Personalysis Corporation. We're all experiencing the stress of these chaotic times. On July 29th, I'll be hosting a webinar to offer best practices for leadership to empower their teams to stress less and stay focused on work goals. I hope you'll join me.
This is a webinar hosted by Southeast Asian Leadership Academy for all of our friends in our networks. And we also have some guests today, special call out for the guests. We're honored to have you and thank you for your interest in what we're doing. In the Southeast Asian Leadership Academy in SELA, we use Personalysis, a personality assessment tool, quite extensively. We have some true Personalysis experts in our ranks, and shout out to Anand and Ashok and other people who have been able to inform our program with a solid basis of personality assessment thanks to our relationship with Personalysis and our use of it. I think most of the people here today from SELA are aware of the usefulness of this and the way that it helps to frame our understanding of ourselves as leaders, how we think, how we express ourselves, how we decide on what engagement and meaningful work is for people. And in that spirit, SELA is inviting the CEO and the president of Personalysis, that's Adrienne McDunn. Adrienne, thank you. Where are you coming to us from today, by the way?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Yes.
So Adrienne herself has been with Personalysis for quite a long time. She joined it a while ago. For those of you who don't know, I didn't. Personalysis has actually been doing its assessments in 1974, based originally in Texas. It got going a little bit before that, but the assessment started in 1974. Adrienne McDunn then went off and founded her own executive coaching, very successful executive coaching company for quite a while. In 2014, was brought back as the right person to lead Personalysis into its new phase as the president and CEO. So although many of us are aware of Personalysis, it is a special pleasure to hear about it, shall we say, from the horse's mouth, as the expression goes. And the topic of our seminar is stressing less, to stress less in the mess. The mess is the reality that we are all living in today. However, obviously the insights that any personality tool offers are useful and important, not only for such high stress times as we live in today, but I'm going to let Adrienne get into that. So Adrienne, would you please tell us a little bit about, first of all, set up for us our expectations of the webinar, what you expect to do with us over the next 40 minutes, and then the floor is yours. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And welcome to everyone. It is a delight to see you all here today. Thank you for joining us. We've still got some people coming in. So let me ask you all to put your, did I just say you all? That's so Southern.
Sure did.
So Southern Texas. So put yourself on mute if you're not already on mute, and we'd like you to close your cameras. Close down your cameras, and that will save some bandwidth as we go into our presentation. Although, thank you so much for allowing me to see you. I absolutely adore being on video and seeing people face to face. I'm going to shout out to Anand and to Ashok. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us today. And I am going to call up the presentation and get us to the beginning here. And this is about stressing less in the mess. And I'm focusing on leadership. And I am going to be talking about Personalysis. I am going to be framing, though, some additional things that we've learned from neuroscience, sharing some research with you about leadership in this particular time. And so it's going to cover a wider spectrum than just Personalysis. And I hope that that's enjoyable to you. I would very, very much like, as Adam said, to hear from you. So please keep your fingers on that chat key and let us know where you are, what you're feeling, and how this relates to things in your work situation. Adam, I don't remember, you said what, 25 different countries coming in today, something like that?
Maybe more.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So this is really an opportunity for us to see what's going on with each other and across the world. Now I am going to just hide something so that I can do a little bit better in managing this presentation. And I'm going to start now, so please feel free. I think the recording is on, and feel free to share with us your thoughts in the chat. We're all affected by this tremendous time, and a lot of people feel like they're sitting in the mess, in the middle of a huge global mess. It's affecting so many things across our continents, and it doesn't just affect you. It affects almost everyone you're engaging with. Certainly that's true for me. I have a few people around me who claim that nothing is happening and nothing is wrong. But I think they're more like ostriches with their head in the sand, because the reality is a lot of things are changing. And human beings can handle change, they really can, but most do not do well with uncertainty. And uncertainty is where we are today, because nobody knows what's going to happen next, how we're going to deal with this, and what are the implications long term. And like I said, this is a brain thing. We are talking about how your brain as a human being functions under change and stress and this level of uncertainty. Some research says that, you know, if you're feeling stressed out, it's a normal, natural, biological response. You should be. This is what this time calls for. And no one on the planet is prepared for this kind of event. And when we deal with this kind of uncertainty in a small area of our lives, we can look around us and see the normalness around us, and that creates some level of stability for us. So even though my little world might be a jumbled mess of uncertainty, I can look across the street, I can look across the border, I can say, oh, I can still buy bread, and I can still go into work. And because there is this band of normalness around me, I can handle it. But this situation goes across the globe. It transcends every element of your life. So it's got a profound, pervasive effect. And in addition to that, it's prolonged. We've gone on with this for months now, and this is really wreaking havoc with the human brain. So if you or the people that you are reporting to are feeling any of these things, I want you to know it is absolutely normal. It would be unusual if people were not feeling this. And let me just remind people that have come in recently, we'd really like you to turn off your video. It really helps with the bandwidth given the number of illustrations in this presentation. And we'll come back online when we're at the end of the program. So yeah, so these are normal things for everybody to go through. So we're going to talk about the kind of things that we need to do as we're leading through this type of disruption. It is very unusual. So the normal things you do as a leader are not what you would do anymore. So as a leader, I would like to know, what is your biggest concern right now? Could you put your answers in the chat box? As a leader, what is your biggest concern right now? And I've done a number of programs like this with people across the globe, and a lot of people are talking about the whole trying to bring people back to work, because there's still a feeling like we're going to go back to work. And the United States is a little slower in its addressing the issues. So Asia and Europe had these discussions a little earlier in the months. So, Adam, what are people saying?
Some people are, and when will this end? The uncertainty of the timing, of course, lack of real contact, lack of stability, lack of sustainability. Our new network manager from Mina says hello from Beirut, which in a way is a sense of anxiety. If I were in Beirut today, I might be anxious. The larger touch, ensuring business continuity, how can my business innovate? Lack of movement, important to many of us.
Mm-hmm.
Also, reimagine is a good one from Meta, reimagining the next normal, resourcing my teams with the right skills. What's the new normal? Or what are we going into now?
Mm-hmm.
Reaching out to clients, loss of direction,
Mm-hmm.
lack of movement again.
Yeah. And I believe that most of these will be addressed through this presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that we were tracking with what your real concerns are.
Mm-hmm. How the economy will affect people's lives. There seems to be no national international strategy for testing or tracing. That's an American concern, but not only, of course, the human touch missing.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional and psychological strength. This, Jim Krupe, of course, is worried about the emotional and psychological strength and resilience of those I lead. In other words, focus on the team.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking about that today.
Team, the group, continuity of message. So it's a spread of things, but some of them get quite deeply into the essence of the problem psychologically, and of course trying to reach out to your teams and team members. It's not only a personal matter.
Mm-hmm.
It stretches from your small community to the whole economy around you.
Mm. Yeah. Interestingly, I looked at a survey that Gallup did in March, and it is an international survey, but it was a while ago now. It was just when things were beginning to, we were beginning to see that there was a real problem. And they asked what employees need from their leadership right now. So you were telling me some of the things that you're concerned about as leaders. What employees need from leadership right now? Gallup identified a few, but I'd like to ask you, what do you think your employees need most from you right now? What are they telling you, or what is your sense of the situation? And if you could enter that in the chat, I would love to hear your responses to that. What employees need from leadership right now?
Reassurance, support, job stability.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding, validation, clear messages, direction, some sense of the future. It's, many people talk about clarity of direction, clear guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, of course, flexibility from work at home, getting back to what's the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen then? And what is the current situation? What's the future situation going to be?
Yeah.
So we're bringing the changes on the theme of uncertainty.
Yeah.
We can only partially see where we are and how much that's going to go forward. Guides how to move forward. Communication, continuous communication. The miracles, of course, of Zoom and others are allowing us to speak, but is that communication warm and useful enough? Is it empathetic enough?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. The folks that are getting the emotional resonance needs of your employees, this is what was tracking most with the people that they surveyed. They wanted to feel that their leader had their back. That they could trust that the leader was going to look out for their best interest. Compassion. I need my leader to understand my situation and to work with me on it as I'm trying to juggle home life and children and health issues and economic issues and all the other things. Stability was huge. People really want to feel more certain. And hope, interestingly, hope is in there. And hope is encouragement that together we'll find a way through this. We don't know what that is going to be, but together we will find a way through this. So many of the people that I share this with ask me, how do I do that? You know, it's like the image or the picture of my world has been thrown up into the air and broken into puzzle pieces. And how do I start putting that together? Well, I can't tell you what everyone does, but I can tell you what Personalysis is recommending. We think that you should put it together like this. So I'm going to offer it as a suggestion to start working with care. You obviously do care. So we put that into a framework of how do we provide support during this time as caring leaders? Well, the first thing is consistency. You want to give people routine and practice and new patterns in their work. That's what they're missing. Attention. Grabbing their attention is no easy feat right now. The brain doesn't help you in this respect. This level of uncertainty closes down higher functioning reasoning and also limits capacity. Relationship. People really badly need relationship because we've lost the proximity and the interactions that we've had in all parts of our world. And so they need more relationship from both their team members and from their leader. And inserting a kind of experimental mindset with the team, because we don't know the answers. And this is paradoxical to uncertainty, because we don't know what the answer is, but we're willing to try to find something. And as long as you playfully work with it, this may not work, but let's try this. It seems like the best thing to do right now. And I'm going to walk through this and share with you some perspective on what's going on as people in their brain center trying to deal with this and what you can do about that, about their needs and their capacity limitations. Adam, do we have anything in the chat that I need to address?
At the moment, we're listening to you with open ears and open mouths.
Okay, so the first part of care is consistency. People need to know where they are on this road. And the way that you can eliminate or downplay uncertainty is to help people figure out new patterns and new habits to the work that they do. Now, most companies do it through a series of goals and plans and processes and roles and rules, which people apply in the workspace. Now, when we're not in the workspace, people may not feel connected to those processes anymore, and they may doubt them, and it may seem like we're just trying to figure out how to go forward. And yes, that is the advice from the experts, that you really as leaders need to go back to Management 101. And I don't mean that in terms of your skill set, I mean that in terms of your employees' capacity right now. They may be brilliant in all kinds of ways and highly skilled, but our brains are challenged right now. We are working with limited capacity. In some places, some research, it says limited as much as 60%. Others say as much as 80%. But either way, 40 or 20% loss of capacity, brain capacity, is pretty significant to how productive your people will be and how happy they will be. So the more simple you can make things, structured, scheduled, the more you will increase that certainty, which will get at that core need of stability. So you'll take your plans, your goals, the framework of the work, and bring it down to bullet points. Not too many on a page at any time. make sure everything is really structured so people know exactly where they are on this road, who's working with them, when is it due, and how am I supposed to do it? And be very specific, because we're in new environments now, working with people working virtually. The A in care is attention. And you have a great deal of challenge for people's attention right now as leaders. So the brain seems to follow this domino effect of going into a flow around the negative messages that they're hearing. And to stand strong and stop that flow requires you really paying attention to how much messaging is getting through to your people. So let me frame it like this, and this is about the brain. The brain seeks patterns and it makes meaning. So when you have an experience, your working memory, which you can see is just a jump drive, it's very small, it takes in that experience. And at night, usually during sleep, it passes that to your long-term memory, which is like a large database of holding. And there it says, do we know anything that looks like this? Where do we put this in the frame of our experience? And how do we make meaning of what we experienced here? And so we put it into place, and we can deal with some change as long as the surrounding patterns on other things stay the same. And it is challenging, but we can handle it. But in the situation that we're currently in, we're going to see that we have no patterns. We're in a space where we don't know anything, and it's nothing like any of us have ever experienced before. Maybe you have some areas where you can say, well, it was like when I had this financial trouble before, or like, you know, the situation when our building burned down and we had to work from home for a while. Okay, so you may have some, but when it's pervasive the way it is today, the effect of what's going on in the world, your long-term memory is struggling to make sense of it and struggling to find a pattern. And when that happens, it slows down. And when that happens, working memory fills up. And that's why it's so difficult to get people's attention, because working memory is where you remember things and you store that memory in long-term memory so that you can go, last week when I was talking to Jim, he said this. Well, right now, people may or may not remember that. And that has to do with this process that's going on. Sleep is often impacted during times of great stress and uncertainty. So when you're encountering these new questions, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And you're trying to make meaning of it, everything is slowed down and is very difficult to handle. So that's why simplicity is so important right now. Nothing complicated. The brain can't handle it. And you might be able to handle it on one day, but regularly, that's probably very difficult. There are some people who feel from their research that it's not even possible to put your attention on anything right now. Neuroscientists are coming along and saying, COVID brain is real. I don't know whether you've used that terminology, but I've used it quite a bit here because people keep telling me they're foggy, they can't remember things, they don't remember how to do things that they knew quite well. They feel low in confidence because they just don't feel as stable as they were in the past. So COVID brain is real. Not only that, but most of us are moving into this virtual way of connecting, whether it's phone or a video conference like we're using here. And then the studies came up and said, hey, that's fatiguing. people find it really difficult. And I can swear to you from my own experience, I'm on Zoom maybe 6 hours a day. I'm exhausted. It's really hard to keep your attention so focused for a long period of time. So Zoom fatigue is real. The implications of working without an office are huge, and a lot of homes are not set up to do that. A lot of schools are out, so people are having to deal with family life while they're trying to do the work. And, you know, the busyness of the world and everything trying to capture your attention, and the news media focusing on the negative because they know that they can get your attention that way. Our brains are wired that way. We are wired to pay attention to the negative, and in times of uncertainty, to exaggerate the negative. So you have a very difficult road ahead of you to get people's attention. So here are some things that we can suggest. The research says that you need to over-communicate. You may have been in touch with people before, but you need to be really, really in touch with them on a regular and a routine basis. Maybe you had a good conversation with somebody 1 week. You can't rely on that holding in their confidence for more than another week. So you have to touch base with them again. Send reminders. You know, people aren't remembering things. Reinforce. These are very simple early management techniques that people that are new to business need. And even though these people are not new to business, these are the things that you can do to really help them. When you create rituals, like every Friday, I'm going to do an all hands meeting, and it's always going to be at 10 o'clock. And they can count on that. That begins to create patterns, which helps the long-term memory feel like it's got something to hang on to, some kind of stability. Use video conference over and over and over again. The research and my experience is telling us that phones just don't do it. Certainly IMs don't do it, or texts. They're too impersonal. You need to be able to see people and connect. It's that, and many of you said that, it's that emotional resonance that people are looking for. And then you narrow focus by really asking yourself, what's important right now? What needs to be done right now? And what are the implications of doing it right now versus doing it next week? So really challenge yourself to bring the focus down to the very present, day to day, week to week. And I'm going to pause for a minute, Adam, and see if there's anything that people are asking.
Not yet. I invite people to send in any questions. However, the basic message then is about consistency, pattern seeking, and trying to remind and reinforce. You're not talking only about your families and friends. You do have in mind, especially for this group, to specifically talk about people's teams and colleagues. It's not only a work-based message. However, as you go on, maybe that's, I don't know if that's the focus, but I believe that's probably what people are listening for. This group, to make sure that they have some sense of how they're working with their colleagues and their work communities. All these things go for your grandkids too. But
yes, that's absolutely true, and for your children, because everyone is feeling this level of stress, and that leads us beautifully, thank you, Adam, into relationships, which is the R in care. Right. So what are you needing to do and do differently for your employees at this time, for your children at this time, for your partners at this time? Our belief is that teams are a network of people in relationship. The team itself does not exist on its own. It is really the relationships we have with each other. And we are collectively responsible for producing a result that no one person can do alone. And that is the definition we are using for a team. Now, we know that there are lots of different teams. Some people are quite They have a role, and their role doesn't touch anybody else, but they're in a team, and they're a cumulative touch of everybody in that team finishes the job or does the work that is necessary. So they may be more tightly connected or more loosely connected, but they're all working together toward a single goal. And this is where Personalysis can help you in the relationships. It's not the only thing that you can use, but since so many of you took Personalysis, I would really like to cover this. Well, in fact, I probably should ask you how many of you have taken Personalysis. Do you have a Personalysis profile? Oh, it looks like quite a lot. Adam, are you seeing the?
I am up to about 80%.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for either doing it or for taking advantage of our invitation to do the online assessment. It's not the full one, but it was very generous of Adrienne and her team to offer that taster. Thank you. 79% have a Personalysis profile, Adrienne.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about is that trust that the Gallup poll was really referring to, and that trust and respect oftentimes go together. Now, we don't it isn't trust in the team. Trust is a personal thing. Respect is a personal thing. And it goes between people. And it's one person to another person. Now, yes, we have this matrix of relationships when we're talking about teams. But trust and respect is a personal decision. And people decide one-to-one on whether or not this is working for me, whether or not I believe you have my back. So you will have a one-to-one relationship with all the people that are reporting to you in teams. The same is true in families. Personalysis measures the default action settings, if you will. How do you take action? In 3 parts of your personality. And we think there's the 3 really important parts of your personality. So let me just walk through that. At the top of your Personalysis profile, this is measuring how you take action in work that really matters to you, work that energizes you, that gives you a sense of contributing to something bigger and better than yourself. If you were a tree, you would be blooming, or you would be offering your fruit to the world. So you are energized when you do work you love. It's very easy to identify work you don't love because it's exhausting, particularly over time. You might start out just being indifferent to it. You might start getting bored by it, but eventually it will drain your energy. And most people have a very strong visceral effect when they're doing work they don't like. They don't say, oh, you know, no, I don't like it very much. They say, I hate this work. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard to do this work. They're really quite dramatic about it. The middle part of the Personalysis profile that you're looking at is about your communication style. This is the way you communicate. It's literally how you speak yourself into the world. This is the most obvious part of personality because it's the one you use in interaction with other people. And it's literally how you say what you are trying to convey, how you speak. It's also what you won't do, what you won't say, how you won't speak in the world. It is your native language, but not like Swahili. It's like it's behaviorally based. And so it's part of the brain structure for composing words. And the bottom part of your profile perhaps is the most intimate aspect of your personality. And this is about how you think things through, how you make meaning, how you solve problems, and the decisions you make. that give you or fill you with confidence. So based on everything I've said, oh, I love this picture. This is the kind of confidence we're talking about. I'm a cat, but when I look at myself, I feel like a lioness. I'm going to go out there and make it happen. Yeah, that's the kind of confidence we're talking about here. And so everything I've said should indicate to you that we're really not talking about the work you love to do, because you need to feel fairly comfortable to be able to engage in work you love to do. We're not really even talking about your communication style, because that comes from a different part of the brain. We're really talking about that intimate part of you that says, I'm making meaning of this. I'm comfortable or I'm not comfortable. I'm feeling safe or I'm not feeling safe. And that's where most of the people are today. And it isn't just a cultural thing. This is a human being. So across the planet, most of us are in this one part of our personality style for a large portion of time. Yeah.
Adrienne, I'm going to intervene very quickly. I'm going to intervene on behalf of a conversation that's going. I'm going to give a shout out to Makrita, who started it, but some of the other people have been writing about this. And that is this, that everybody is saying nowadays that the world's going to be changed, nothing's ever going to be the same. Does that imply that people are going to relate to it the same? I mean, the CARE, the CARE template is useful. I'm not sure it's eternal. In other words, especially as far as communication is concerned, communication styles have so radically changed in any case. The technology has been accelerated by the fact that you and I are speaking on Zoom. Half the world is dying to meet in cafes. Half the world will be happy to stay on Zoom forever and never meet another soul. So in other words, to what extent actually would a new set of behavioral habits or new template to reflect those be appropriate now as we go forward out of the COVID times? That is the essence of the questions I see being asked on chat.
That is a wonderful, wonderful question. And it is, we developed CARE as a response to what's going on right now, because we looked at the change and models and business management models for getting work done. And we noticed that none of the previous models could apply to this situation. So we fully, even VUCA, because it doesn't address the emotional need of this time. And the degree of uncertainty of this time. So I fully expect that a year from now, we might look at this model or any other model that comes out of this time and say, it's no longer appropriate to this time. So I'm encouraging you to limit your horizon to the present or the most immediate present and future, because we don't know what these next steps are. And so you will probably evolve. Language does evolve. In terms of people needing personal reassurance, that is coming up in the research all over the place right now. And it's a greater need now because people, as human beings, we're social animals. We need to be social. It is part of the way that we develop our confidence. And the fact that some people are really isolated and other people are not so isolated, you're right. Some people are going to handle that better than others, but all people need more reassurance during times of uncertainty, no matter what your personality style is, no matter how confident you are. I deal with senior executives, and you folks here are leaders. When we think about what you need, what's coming up for you? Are you getting the relationship needs you need and want and expect? Are you suffering the isolation of not being around your team members, not being around your groups? Right. So you can apply it to yourself as well as to your people.
It was fun to challenge you, Adrienne, but in the spirit of reassurance, I assure you that we're listening. We're 40 minutes into the hour, so let's get back on track. Thank you.
Okay.
And let's try to leave some time for questions at the end also.
Thank you. I think it's a very good question. So when you're trying to make sense and move forward, if you've got red in that bottom part of your graph, you need to know what the next step is. If you've got green, green is the most sensitive to the need for certainty. You need to know where the process of the plan is. And yellow wants to know where I sit in all of this, who's involved, and what's the general direction. And blue is looking for the why. Why are we doing it this way as opposed to some other way? If you want to help people figure out how to build their confidence, you want to look at accomplishments for red, predictability for green, support. So people with yellow in that bottom graph need much more communication than anybody that's red or green in that bottom graph. And blue needs understanding. So they don't need frequent touch bases, they need deeper touch bases. They need to feel like you understand me. Yellow is looking for connection. Now, stress behaviors means that we do what we do, we just do it harder. It's not effective, but it doesn't seem to matter to us. We're not as reasonable when we are stressed. So red is looking to make, have a lot of accomplishments so that they can be more confident. So they overwork and they push for results. And they will push themselves, but they'll also push other people. Yellow can become impulsive and try too many things, get over-involved and expand options. Blue is that deep thinker, so what do? They think more and more deeply, and they become overwhelmed and they overcomplicate an issue. And green, because of its avoidance of risk, gets stuck and clings to certainty. So may not move forward until they're absolutely certain. You don't need a profile to get at trust and respect. You can do it through conversations. And having these kinds of conversations with people is extremely important right now. But again, according to all the research, and certainly according to all the work that we're doing in the world, people want to talk about this. They may not have the language, they may not feel entirely comfortable to have these conversations, but they long to feel a sense of trust and respect from their leadership, from their team, from their community. And if they're safe and comfortable with the conversation, they can have it with other people. And that is wonderful. But if they are feeling vulnerable, then you need a one-on-one conversation. Now we have some conversation templates or guides that can initiate the conversation. And when you use a personality assessment like Personalysis, you can use that as a framework for laying out the languaging and the methodology for what you need. So it frequently jumpstarts this kind of conversation. So more than anything, people need conversations with their leadership and with each other right now.
Remind us what it means when you have more than one color highlighted. Thank you, Yasmin. Are these set in stone? Are these preferences, or where you feel more comfortable? Does it mean you have a dual personality?
It means that both of them are important. Right. So if you are, for example, both green and blue, these are thinking qualities. I want to plan, I want to process, I think it out ahead of time before I go to do the work. I figure out the reasoning, I come up with the best idea to move forward, so that you can see a lot of mental processing going on with blue and green. So you are more likely to step back from a situation, try to think it through before you step into the situation. Red and yellow is a more action-oriented, spontaneous quality of behavior. So you're more likely to get frustrated if you don't have movement. So you are not going to step back, you're going to step in. You're going to try and do something, call somebody, take the first step, build a draft, and get it out there so that things begin moving, because you're not comfortable with inaction. And I can go on if you think that people would like to know the other combinations as well. I'm happy to do that.
Let's say that for questions at the end if we like.
Okay.
We have about 12 minutes left scheduled, so let's push forward and then see what we'd like to do at the end.
Okay. What do you do as a leader if no one has the answer for dealing with this? Well, my suggestion is you figure it out. And you're a little bit challenged as a leader, and some of you mentioned innovating and experimenting, and that's the E in care, because you have to do it, so many of us have to do it virtually. And finding that time to connect, allowing people to weigh in on that. Learning and innovation is usually not associated with stress. It's hard to reach higher order functioning when you're deeply stressed. In COVID brain, it's even harder. So our suggestion is that you establish it as an experiment. You say, this might change. We're just going to do this for right now. You say that it's a test, a project, a pilot program. You use imaginative language that invites the creativity from people. As long as they know it isn't the answer, you're more likely to engage them in a creative solution building brainstorming session. You could also break people into small groups and allow them to talk through an issue and then bring everybody together. Again, the more people understand that we're not fixing the problem, we're not fixing the huge problem, we're fixing this problem, and we're fixing it for now, and we're going to see whether or not it works. And then we're going to learn from that and take the next step. But the challenge really is finding that way, and we believe this is a really powerful way to do that, a really good way to do that when people are so incredibly stressed by the situation. People really need to know you care, and oftentimes your action, as opposed to your words, are the way that you do that. And so as you're working through this framework, all of these things are necessary all the time. You will learn the people that are less certain. You'll learn the times when they're less certain. We're in America coming up to September, and will schools be open? Won't schools be open? From March to June, people were really, really, really challenged. June to August, they've got some patterns for that with their kids at home because we take summer breaks here. So they were less challenged during this time. They were less stressed during this time. But they're going to be stressed higher again as this new process of working through schooling comes into place. So don't expect it to be a forever linear approach. You're going to have to constantly make those changes. Here are some of our guides for team conversations. And I've put together a care tip page for you, the way that you can help other people, some interesting aspects of the research, and then what you can do specifically for the Personalysis profile relative to some of the things I've been talking about.
This seems to me a very useful document. The care tips I've seen, you can apply it to your teams. And so if that's all right, is that something that we could offer to share with our participants?
Absolutely. I believe I've given you the PDF of both of these. So
working with me virtually, great.
Yeah, there's when I was talking about conversations, you could use the profile and guess at what people need, but nothing is better than actually having them tell you.
Super.
So if you hand these out, one or you can use a series of these Working with me virtually helps a team understand what are your particular challenges. When are you available? When are you not available? I don't know your home situation, so you need to tell me that. What communication methods work best for you? What are the challenges that you're particularly going through right now? And this is an evergreen process. You have to have this and then have it again. And the more people start to become comfortable sharing, think about how vulnerable it makes people to be at home and working, and sharing with you, how I decorate here, and my cat will come in, and there's all kinds of things that happen. Somebody comes to the door and the doorbell rings. Well, everybody sees that when I'm on Zoom. So, I have to be really comfortable sharing that, and not everybody is. So the more we can help them get comfortable with their coworkers about this, that I say is an absolutely #1 conversation you need to have. And then how do you make decisions together? What are the rules? What are the processes? What do people need? And can they become more comfortable saying what they need? That's what these two are about.
People, thank you. In the time left to us, of course, I invite you to continue shooting across some ideas and questions. But I have seen in the general chat a number of people who are asking for a little bit more concretization about the colors and so on. You discussed, for example, what happens if you are strong in 2 colors. Some of our maximalists, of course, want to know, like David and Chopin, what 3 colors are. And let's go for broke. Is anyone strong in all 4 colors, or would that be a freak of nature? There are also some people who are interested in example interpretation. I don't know if you have time to do that. And some people, I think, receive the 2-page report. I don't know if there's some trick or some useful advice to interpreting or understanding that. But in general, you've certainly whetted people's appetites. Can you give any, in the time left to us, or can you give anything a little more concrete about how people should understand it?
Okay.
In brief.
I'm happy to show you my profile and to show you that it is perfectly normal that you would have some behaviors that you use at some time, but not at other times. Look, I lose blue when I go into my decision maker here, where I think, decide, and solve. People that meet me see me as very curious, very creative, very willing to go into deep conversations. And that's true until I've got the answer, or I'm tired of the conversation and I think I need to start moving. And when I feel like I need to take action on something, I become red and green with some yellow. And the red and green is much more practical. It's a very pragmatic decision maker. It's not idealistic. It doesn't rethink things. It's very efficient. It says, if I've done something that worked before, I'll do it that way again. And the green says, yeah, I've got a plan for that. I'm just going to pull that out of my long-term memory and put it down, and I'm going to run on it. And that's how we stay efficient and effective. Yellow is that quality that needs to connect with the team, that needs to see where everybody is, that takes advantage of the local environment. So as I'm talking with my teams, we might figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, the what being the red and the how being the green. And I will automatically say, well, I wonder if that's going to work for our resellers. I wonder if that's going to work for the majority of companies that we have. I need to touch base with those people to see whether or not that'll work. So that's the yellow coming in and playing it out imaginatively in the immediate environment. So it's very normal to shift from one style to another as you're working through the profile. It's very normal to have 3, and yes, you can have 4 qualities that come up in your profile. And that means that all 4 of those elements of behavior are active in your style. And so let's just keep it in decision making, because I've been talking about that the most. So that means that you will want to know specifically, what are we going to do? And you'll have a sense of urgency to get moving. The yellow will want to know how it works for other people. The blue is going to test the idea, or test the reasoning. Why are we doing this? Why does it make sense to do it this way as opposed to that way? And the green is going to put things into a plan and is going to look at the detail and test whether or not can we afford it? Do we have the people that can do it? And how long will it take? So that's a very detailed, practical application to decision making.
We see some numbers set into the graph. Of course, these are a certain scale. You don't have to go into detail, but could you at least explain the 3.0 threshold for a color to be highlighted?
So you can go from 0, I have 1 here, but you could go literally from 0 to 6. At 3 points, the behavior starts showing up. And it's you start using it in your day-to-day application of whatever it is you're going to do, whether it's work you love, or whether it's communicating or deciding. The higher the number, the more you lean into it, the more you rely on that quality of behavior to move forward. So with 4 points here of red that I have, that's pretty strong. I can actually feel that sense of urgency. Biologically, I feel the need. I cannot sit still. I have to get up and start moving. That it really pushes me to do that when I'm in a state of either making a decision or when I'm in a state of concern.
Adrienne, are we all going to do equally well in the mess? Or do reds, greens, blues, yellows have a certain advantage in certain circumstances?
That is an excellent question. I think there's, beyond personality, there's your overall sense of confidence. So if you fundamentally feel like you are capable and able to handle just about anything, you will do better if you are there. And it's very hard for people to be there, given that there's so much economic uncertainty and health. We're talking about really intense elements of our lives. What'll happen if I do get the virus? I very fortunately haven't had it, but what will happen? But if I were to just talk through behavior, red and yellow are more short-term focused naturally, and they're more willing to jump in and do something. So they will get the most frustrated when nothing is happening or no information is coming forward. But you could capture their attention. Go do this. Okay, now we're going to try that. And they will be more willing to do that. And the more things they get done, the more interactions they have, that's very satisfying to them. Blue and green are the mental qualities of behavior. So blue is going to have a lot of difficulty if they cannot get the information. I've got people constantly saying, I can't let go of Google. I'm constantly looking for the research. I'm trying to figure out, how safe I am or where the challenges are. I'm, trying to figure out if I'm going to have work. They're trying to solve problems creatively in their brain. And so they will have a real big challenge if they don't find ways to turn that brain thought off. And so they will have to practice a lot of discipline to their mental circling. And it's not an unusual piece of advice. I give it to everybody anyway, but right now people really need that way, the way that they use to turn their mind off. And green's vulnerability is that they double down on uncertainty. They really, really, really don't like uncertainty. And so no human being likes uncertainty, but green super doesn't like it. And so they can get frozen because they can't see a way forward.
Friends, we're 1 minute past the hour. With your permission, I'm just going to go, over by just a few minutes so that I give Adrienne the chance to wrap up and tell us how we want to go farther if we don't. And I'd like to wrap up with Hala's question here. It's a variant of what we've been asked before, but it is important, and it is our personality fixed? Or is it going to change and depend on the circumstances and obviously appropriate to these days, the environment and conditions we are passing through? Is it something in our makeup forever, or is it something, can we at least flip through our preferences, our preferred modes of being? Can you address some of that for us?
Yes, the more aware you are of your personality style and the way you operate, the more capacity you have to deliberately choose what behaviors you're going to use. I, for example, before I get on a call where I need to be very open and receptive, I do some things to shift myself into my middle communicator, particularly late in the afternoon or in the early evening when I'm tired. My normal response would be to stay in that bottom graph, but I need to be in, I need that yellow blue that I have there, so I can learn how to shift to the resource I need. But that comes from a lot of awareness about how I do what I do. Are you fixed? Well, the answer to that used to be that your personality was set. And that held throughout the 20th century until neuroscience was able to take a look at the brain. So in the very later stages of the 20th century, we went into the brain and we said, oh, wow, it's a lot more interactive than we thought it was. It's not hierarchical, and it's a lot more malleable than we ever thought it was. So the answer to your question is, can you change your personality? Yes. The answer is yes, you can. And situations like this, deeply traumatic situations, are likely to make a change in personality. So it is entirely possible. The thing you need is something so either patterned and held over a long period of time and practiced to change a brain pattern. It can be done, but you really have to work at it to make it happen. Or you need something life-altering, and it can cause a rapid brain change as well. So
let's hope that none of this mess proves life-altering. You've put up a slide. I see an email here. May we write to you if we want more information or interest?
Absolutely, absolutely. Please do.
Well, I'm going to thank you then. Certainly, I'm impressed by the colors, but I myself am very verbal, and so I go by letters. I'm very grateful to Ashok for having introduced us, to Anand for having introduced Personalysis to Sheila. My name is Adam. I'd like to give a special shout out to our producer and boss behind the curtain, which is Aisha, and finally Adrienne. So if anyone sees a connection between all those names, then it's probably not coincidental. Adrienne, thank you so much. I invite all of you to flash, or we'll do one of our little rituals. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for attending our webinar. And once again, in the spirit of ritual and consistency, look out for our next SEMA webinar coming up next month. Everybody, thank you so much. We have a recording, which I believe Aisha will be posting on our SELA website, so we can share this. And for those of you who logged in late, can catch up with us. Adrienne, thank you so much for today. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for all your great questions.
Thank you.